At this point, iShowSpeed could trend for something insane tomorrow, apologize for 30 seconds, and somehow come back with more subscribers, and everyone would just go, yeah, that checks out. Which is kind of wild when you actually think about it. Because if you've been online for more than 5 minutes, you already know how this usually goes. Someone messes up, they get backlash, and eventually, it sticks. But with speed, it never does. So today, we're not talking about one clip, we're not talking about one bad stream, and we're definitely not talking about things being taken out of context. We're talking about why, no matter what happens, nothing ever sticks to iShowSpeed. And once you see the pattern, you really can't unsee it. Speed didn't get famous because he was thoughtful. He didn't get famous because he was careful. He didn't get famous because he had good judgment. He got famous because he was chaos. Loud chaos. Unfiltered chaos. The kind of chaos that makes you stop scrolling because you're not sure what's about to happen next. His streams feel like watching someone who does not have an internal pause button. Every thought comes out immediately. Every emotion becomes content. Every impulse turns into a clip. And for a while, that feels authentic. People mistake lack of control for being real. They confuse impulsiveness with honesty. And that confusion is the foundation of Speed's entire online persona.
What the f is that? What the f was that? I'm gonna be Hokage one day! What the f is...
B1 early.
Pussy on my drop, let me get in top.
When chaos is the brand, expectations change. Nobody clicks on an iShowSpeed stream expecting maturity. Nobody expects professionalism. Nobody expects restraint. They expect something to go wrong. So when something does go wrong, the reaction isn't shock, it's acceptance. Well, yeah, that's speed. And that mindset is powerful because it lowers the bar before anything even happens. Now let's talk about the controversy cycle, because Speed doesn't accidentally fall into drama. He follows a pattern so consistent, you could set a calendar reminder for it. Something happens on stream, clips spread on Twitter and TikTok. People argue for a few days. One side says, this is unacceptable. The other side says, you're overreacting. Then the defenses arrive. He's young. He didn't mean it. He's just playing a character. Platforms respond with a warning or a short ban. Speed disappears briefly, then he comes back, and somehow, he's bigger than before. More views, more attention, more momentum. This has happened so many times that it barely even feels like drama anymore. It feels routine. One of the biggest and most uncomfortable categories of controversy around Speed involves sexual and inappropriate behavior on stream. And this is where people immediately get defensive, so let's slow this down and be precise. Some moments were accidental. Some were impulsive. Some were clearly done for shock value. Intent matters, but outcome matters more. The outcome was explicit or sexual content being broadcast live to an audience that includes minors. That's not a take, that's not drama, that's just how live streaming works. When you go live, you don't get to choose who's watching. Now imagine a smaller creator doing the same thing. Not Speed, not a massive streamer, just a random person with a modest audience. Their career would be over. Permanent demonetization. Platform removal, reputation destroyed. But Speed, temporary bans, short suspensions, then right back to streaming like nothing happened. That doesn't mean platforms approve of what happened, but it does mean enforcement isn't equal, and unequal enforcement sends a message. Then there's the IRL content. Different countries, different cultures, different social rules. Speed has been criticized for making stereotypical comments, acting disrespectfully toward locals, and leaning into exaggerated behavior that crossed lines for a lot of viewers. Now, to be fair, and fairness matters, some moments were misunderstandings. Some were blown out of proportion. Some were cultural mistakes. That happens, especially during live content. But again, this isn't about one incident, it's about frequency. It's about how often these moments happen, and how quickly they get excused. Every time, the explanation is the same. He didn't mean it. He's ignorant, not hateful. He's just playing a character. Okay, but at what point does the character need boundaries? Because "it's just a character" is not an infinite defense. If every apology video could end with "that wasn't the real me," apologies would mean nothing. Eventually, character becomes responsibility. Now let's talk about Speed's strongest shield, age. Every controversy circles back to it. He's young. He doesn't know better. He'll mature. And yes, he is young, but he is also a multimillionaire, with managers, with advisors, with direct access to platform representatives. He's not just some kid with a webcam. At some point, influence changes expectations. You don't get to be just a kid only when it's convenient. If you're old enough to monetize millions of viewers, you're old enough to be held accountable. Now let's talk about platforms, because here's the uncomfortable truth. Speed is valuable. When speed trends, engagement explodes. When speed goes viral, clips dominate timelines. When speed gets cancelled for a weekend, traffic goes up. And let me be very clear here. There is no confirmed evidence of secret deals, special contracts, or explicit favoritism. That would be speculation, and speculation should stay speculation. But even without conspiracies, the pattern is obvious. Consequences are lighter. Patience is longer. Enforcement is softer. Why? Because chaos pays. Then there's the fan base. Speed fans don't just support him. They protect him. Any criticism gets shut down immediately. You're hating. You're jealous. You're taking it out of context. And this happens with other creators too. But with Speed, it's amplified. Because chaos is expected. So when chaos happens, it doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like content. And when everything becomes content, nothing feels serious. What really separates Speed from other creators is expectation. He's not marketed as responsible. He's not marketed as thoughtful. He's marketed as unpredictable. So when something goes wrong, people shrug and say, well, that's Speed. The bar is lower, and when the bar is lower, accountability slips through. But here's the part people don't like to hear. Chaos content always hits a wall. Audiences grow up. Platforms change. Tolerance runs out. The "he's young" defense expires. The "it's just a character" excuse stops working. And when that happens, it doesn't happen slowly. It happens all at once. We've seen this story before. One day everything is fine. The next day, it isn't. So no, this isn't saying iShowSpeed is evil. It's not saying he should be banned tomorrow. It's not saying he's beyond redemption. It's saying this: Speed exists in an ecosystem where controversy is profitable, accountability is optional, and consequences are temporary. And as long as that ecosystem exists, nothing changes. Not because people don't care, but because chaos is easier to consume than responsibility. So I'll ask you directly, do you think Speed gets special treatment, or do you think this is just what internet fame looks like now? Let me know in the comments. And if you stayed through this entire video, subscribe, because this conversation isn't done, not even close.